All right, 6 o'clock. So we will call the meeting of Transportation and Circulation Committee to order. Start with a roll call.
Committee Member Bradley. Kaufman Gray.
Here.
France. Horn.
Here.
Rodriguez. Tabor.
Here.
Chair Blackerby.
Here. All right. So first we'll take public comment for items not on the agenda, and I only have one, and it is Ralph Fertig.
There. Okay, Chair Blackerby and members of the committee, I'm Ralph Fertig, President Emeritus of the Santa Barbara Bicycle Coalition. I have three quick things tonight. The American Community Survey, each year they reach out to, this is run by the U.S. Census Bureau, reach out to 35 households in each, throughout 1 in 35 throughout the United States, asking a number of questions that used to be on the regular census long form. Among them are, how did you commute to work last week? And they're coming, their statistic dribble out during the whole year. They've come out with the preliminary ones for 2011 counts that they did. And what, we don't have it for the city of Santa Barbara yet, but for the United States, in terms of bicycling, the mode share increased 2%. In 2011 over the average of the previous 3 years, 2008 through 10. For California, it increased a lot more, 9% increase in the mode share for bicycling. For Santa Barbara County, it increased 8% over that same period. And they have the numbers for Santa Maria, but not for Santa Barbara yet. And Santa Maria jumped up 13%. So I think that's pretty significant. I think we'll expect a similar one from the city of Santa Barbara. I have flyers which I put out at your table. We're very fortunate to have a world expert on bicycling and walking coming to Santa Barbara. He's being paid by UCLA to attend a conference there, and he managed to squeak in an extra side trip since he's gone from Rutgers University in New Jersey all the way to L.A. He likes Santa Barbara and is coming back here for 2 free presentations, and one will be at the Casa Las Palmas on Cabrillo Boulevard on the 27th of October, and it's open to the public and it's free, so please come along and learn. He's coming out with a new book published next month by MIT Press, City Cycling, and he's done a lot of research around the world over the last several years, finding out what other places are doing in terms of bicycling and walking, and he's going to bring that information to us. It's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, and lots of new stuff is going to be there, so it's going to be pretty exciting. The third thing that I have, quickly, I went to the Pro Walk, Pro Bike conference in Long Beach last week. This is a major North American conference, and it took place in Santa Barbara in 1998. And this was Long Beach, and about 800 people attended. One of the things that I found very interesting, I've been following bike share programs around the country. No, Paris is probably the most famous one, but now it's sprouted out in a large number of American cities. And Bike Nation is a firm which is creating it, and they're doing it at very little cost to the individual jurisdictions. And they're spending $16 million on one in Los Angeles next year, $12 million on one in Long Beach. And I'm trying to get a representative from Bike Nation to come to Santa Barbara to one of the coast meetings next month or November. That's a Coalition for Sustainable Transportation, to hear what they have to say and how they manage to provide the money for these systems. So that's going to be exciting. So a lot of things are happening, and that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment for items not on the agenda? All right, so then we have the approval of minutes for the July 26th meeting. What is happening with that microphone? There we go.
I move to approve.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention from Mr. Bradley, who is now here. All right. Okay, moving right along. There's item number 3, and the one that follows that is item number 1. So we're just going to say that it's number 3 and we will proceed to number 4 afterwards. So number 3, presentation of fiscal year 2012 MTD transit assistance. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Basically, MTD is coming to talk to us. So.
Yeah, Sherry Fisher, the general manager from MTD, will present this to the committee tonight.
Great.
Well, I'll start, and then I'm
Thanks,
going
Sherry.
to hand off to Steve. But I wanted to take the opportunity, since I have your attention, to remind you all that there is an open board position at MTD. Then we're going to talk about ridership in a minute here. Our at-large position, which is the way that our board members are chosen: 2 by the city of Santa Barbara, 2 by the county, 1 by the city of Goleta, 1 by the city of Carpinteria. Those 6 members choose a 7th out of the community at large within the transit district, which is from Winchester Canyon to Ventura County line. That position is open. We're taking applications until Monday, the 1st, at 2:00 p.m. So if you are interested yourself or know somebody in the larger audience of our district, please let them know. And not to be confused, but so that those applications will come in and they'll be interviewed by our board on October 16th. Not to be confused with the fact that the city of Santa Barbara's representatives, the 2 that are chosen by the city, that's also coming open for applications by mid-October. And I don't want to state, I think it's the 19th, but I don't want to be misstating that and having somebody late. So please look on the website for the city of Santa Barbara. And those 2 positions are currently filled by Olivia Rodriguez and John Britton, who may in fact be interested in returning, but the application is available to the community. Those people need to live within the city of Santa Barbara, I believe. And I'm going to let Browning tell me if I'm wrong there. But
The 19th is correct.
okay, good, the 19th. All right, and Steve's going to present information on our ridership this year.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
All right. Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the committee. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about MTD in general in the fiscal year that ended a couple of months ago, ended June 30th. And then I'll talk more specifically about the routes that the city of Santa Barbara helps to fund. So as you see on this first slide, in fiscal year 2012, we carried just under 8 million passengers, which was pretty good. We had hit the 8 million mark in the 2 years before the recession, and then the 2 years since we've been just slightly under. I'm sure soon we'll be up over that 8 million mark once again. This slide shows total ridership for the year on each of our lines. And the 3 that are in red are the 3 that I'll be discussing in more detail that are the city-sponsored routes. So as you can see in your slide there, between the lines 6 and 11 alone, which are our State and Hollister trunk service, core service, we carry at about 1.8 million passengers in that year. And on the lines 1 and 2, which are east side and west side through downtown in the city of Santa Barbara, we carried over 1.1 million. So just on those 4 lines alone, we do provide a lot of transportation in the area. The downtown Waterfront Shuttle, which you see as the DWE there, E for electric, is quite high in our list of total passengers carried too, and especially considering that that's a smaller vehicle, that's pretty impressive for that service. Sorry, the wrong direction there. The next slide shows average riders per revenue hour on each of our lines. And a revenue hour is any hour that a bus is out in service to the public is a revenue hour. So there's, some lines have several buses out in any given hour. Other lines might only have 1 bus out in an hour. And some of the lines that do the highest on this measure are some different lines than the ones you see with the highest total ridership. And often that's because they're shorter trips. You get more trips in an hour with 1 bus. Also, some of the lines that serve either UCSB or City College or the schools have very high ridership on a per hour basis. The line you see called 2000 there, that's actually a combination of all of our school booster trips that we run at times when our regular bus lines would be overwhelmed with student riders if we didn't have extra service out there for them to ride. So again, the red lines mark the downtown Waterfront Shuttle, the line 37, or the Crosstown Shuttle as you know it, and the Carrillo Commuter Lot Shuttle, the line 50. Again, just let me add on the downtown Waterfront Shuttle, again, to carry that many passengers per hour on a shuttle, a small vehicle like that is quite good. So on to the downtown waterfront shuttle. Over 540,000 passengers in the last fiscal year, which was an increase from the prior year. The route, as I'm sure you all know, the State Street portion runs from the wharf to Sola, turns around at Victoria. The waterfront portion runs from the harbor to the zoo, basically. There's two separate shuttles, except for some late evening service in the summers, that connect near the dolphin fountain there. And you can transfer for free from one to the other if you get a transfer from the driver. The schedule on that service varies from the summer to the winter. There's more service in the summer. Obviously, the tourist crowds need more service than we do during the winter. So on State Street, it's in the 1 hour in the morning, about every 30 minutes, and then from 10 to 6, we try to have a shuttle every 10 minutes. Sometimes due to traffic congestion, the spacing might not stay entirely even between them, but that's our goal. And then the late night service, where it goes down State Street and then goes over towards the zoo, is every 15 minutes. And then on the waterfront in the shuttle, we have service every 15 minutes from 10 to 6, and then again that East Beach only service from 6 to 9. Now in the fall, again, the 9 to 10 hour on State Street is every 30 minutes. 10 to 6 is every 15 minutes is our goal on that one. And the waterfront is every 30 minutes rather than 15. In fiscal year 2012, again, we carried, as I said earlier, more than 540,000 passengers. The city provided a subsidy of over $1 million towards the fare buy-down to keep the fare low on the service. In fiscal year 12, the fare for all riders was a quarter. As of July 1st, the fare is now 50 cents unless you're senior or disabled, and then it's 25 cents. And then the service made about $120,000 in fare revenue. Both passengers per hour and the operating cost per passenger improved over the previous year. The passengers per hour went up, the cost per passenger went down. The Carrillo commuter lot shuttle, which we ran for many years with the assistance of the city, as of July 1st, this new fiscal year, that route's discontinued. I'll talk a little bit more about that. The service ran in the mornings and the afternoon peaks to transport people from the commuter lot to their jobs every 10 to 12 minutes. If you had paid the city to park in the commuter lot, the service was free. Otherwise, there was a quarter fare. Due to the redevelopment agency dissolutions that happened statewide, that route's been discontinued as of July 1st. In this last fiscal year of operation, it carried nearly 13,000 passengers. The city supplied us with about 135,000. I'm sorry, with 102,000 city subsidy. The passengers per hour and was up slightly from the previous year, but just not. It was never a very high performing route. The Crosstown shuttle, we carried about nearly 140,000 passengers in that year. The route goes from the, I guess you'd say, the upper west side, the upper east side, west, I get this right one of these times, from the upper west side to the lower east side through the downtown core. About approximately 7 to 7 every weekday. It doesn't run on weekends. And this route was also affected by the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies as of July 1st. It was not discontinued. The route's still in operation. But we do no longer have the subsidy from the city for the fare buy-down, and so we reduced the midday service, which was the least used of the service on the route. It didn't eliminate midday service, but reduced it. And there's no longer free ridership. Or if you park at the Coda lot, you no longer can ride the route for free. So during the year, again, about 140,000 passengers. City subsidy for the portion of the service that served the Coda lot was the 102,000, same as the Carrillo lot shuttle was. approximately, and 120,000 in fare revenue. And passengers per hour improved somewhat over the previous year. It also, in the first 2 years of this next year, this current year, has improved. So a little bit, again, we cut some of the hours of the service, so we've actually have lost total ridership on the route is lower than it was in the first 2 months of fiscal year 12 in this new fiscal year. But the ridership per hour is actually improved because the service that we have left is more heavily weighted to the more heavily used times of day. So that's it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Yep.
Would you mind?
Push it. It's not on.
Oh, thanks. Would you mind describing the signage at the bus stops? What kind of things does it say about times? And this is a kind of a complicated schedule. I'm just wondering how you handle all of that
On
signage.
On a particular line?
Well, any of them really.
It
How
varies.
big is it? And
Yeah. I don't know the actual measurements offhand. The signs that we have vary somewhat, too, from route to route. Like, for example, on that State and Hollister corridor that I mentioned with the lines 6 and 11, which carry, again, about 1.8 million people last year. And those we have very detailed kind of wayfinding information that at each stop tells how long it would take you estimated to get from there to various other locations. And, just real detailed. And those signs are probably, 8 inches by 16 inches, maybe something along that line. On other routes that have less riders, oftentimes the signage is much more limited. It might just say what route stops there and maybe say the hours of service, but not necessarily the time that each bus arrives at each of the stops. The schedule guide, which I've brought a stack of here, and please feel free to take some of those with you, tells you in detail every time point, not every stop, but every time point, the time that for every route, the times of day that the bus stops at those time points. So, we think the information we provide is pretty detailed and definitely allows people to navigate the system. Oh, very good point. Also, if you're familiar with Google Transit, we are one of the agencies that's online there, so you can go to Google Maps and hit the bus icon and find out our schedules on there. And that's updated on a regular basis. Every time we change our schedules, Google Map gets that updated information, and so it stays pretty current.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mark.
I know you don't have a fixed timetable for the downtown shuttles, but the couple times that I've done the transfer from the State Street to the Waterfront, there was another bus just sitting there waiting. I'm wondering if I was just lucky, or do they try to wait for each other and pick up each other's?
I guess it's not really fair for me to sit over there and whisper in Steve's ear. We do actually, as of the last couple of years, have the downtown waterfront on a timetable.
Okay.
We're not always able to keep that schedule, as Steve said, because of traffic, et cetera. But I'd like to think you were lucky anyway, but assumedly that was the right time for that transfer to happen. So
Okay.
with 10-minute headways on State Street, you won't always catch, but you would catch within 5 minutes the 15-minute headways on the crosstown. On Cabrillo.
Okay, thanks. Do you have any numbers on how many people who use those systems actually transfer from one to the other?
Yeah, we do. In fact, generally speaking, I couldn't tell you off the top standing here how many do that on the downtown waterfront shuttle, but we can tell you that in the entire system, one of our goals is that there's a low percentage of transfers because we know it's annoying. It's annoying to me when I catch a plane and I have to transfer to another plane. So our goal is to keep it below 20%. It's well below that. I think we're at 10% or below 10%. Yeah, 10 or 11%. But we could get you the information as to what happens with the DWE specifically.
Okay. Cool. I mean, it could go both ways. If you have really convenient transfers and people don't mind doing it, then it makes your whole network better if people can do it. But a city the size of Santa Barbara, there's probably not that much need for it anyway.
Yeah, generally speaking, what you think in terms of is it, and we just made a change in our service out in the Isla Vista, UCSB area. The line 11 and the 6 used to go off as an 11 into the Winchester Canyon area, and we stopped that this August and set that as a separate system out in Winchester Canyon, which does mean you have to transfer. There's a lot of 6s and 11s. There's a lot of opportunity, but for some people, they're finding that annoying. On the other hand, it meant that we were able to put our heaviest service on those systems, part of the system that were the heaviest, and to have less service in the other area. It's always a balancing act.
Right. Okay. Unrelated question. Is there any, do you know offhand from any sources what the people who used to ride the commuter lot shuttles that have been discontinued, what they're doing these days?
I only know that there were a couple of people who were specifically concerned at the time. Browning may know the answer to that. I'm not sure.
I believe a couple of people that were parking there relocated to the Coda lot. Some people just didn't renew a pass in either lot. Some, I guess, probably the other ones are just walking. So very little impact from what I've been able to gather so far.
One thing I thought you were all going to ask was, when are we going to get the articulated buses?
When are we going to get the articulated buses?
All right. Because our line 15, which goes from Isla Vista Freeway to City College, is extremely well used, and as the new school year starts, more so than last year, and every time I think it couldn't get any more busy, it gets busier, which is wonderful. The campus is very green, but on the other hand, we're out of space on the buses, and there's a lot of students on them. So we're asking for articulated buses, and it's our intent to put in a procurement process that would get those buses here about a year from now. And that's because that's the fastest we can actually get the buses from the manufacturer. So we're still looking forward to doing that. We had a very successful trial run on it and didn't get any concerns from the community except for one person who said, please don't park in front of my house. So we said, okay. Of course we won't.
Okay.
We'll be real pleased to be able to help with that.
Okay. There are questions? Yeah, Keith.
Just a question. In July is when we started raising the fare from a quarter to 50 cents, and I noticed that ridership did go down about 15,000, which is 19%. Now, was this a factor of the calendar, or was it actually, you think, we actually lost people because we went from 25 cents to 50 cents?
We had forecasted that there would be a loss. As it turned out, when I did an elasticity analysis of that, it came up to an estimated about a 13% loss in ridership. As you say, we're at about 19 or 20 for the first 2 months of the year. And as to your question, I'm really not sure, if that there's any factors at play other than the increase in the fare. So what I assumed was that it would be a typical kind of an elasticity, even though that's really still a pretty cheap fare. And I was thinking I was actually being conservative there, and that probably that I was overestimating the decrease in ridership. And actually, in the first 2 months, it's a little bit higher than I had expected. And I really don't know yet, the reason for that. We're monitoring it, and we'll report to you.
Yeah, I was surprised too, because I thought, as a committee, we all thought, oh, it wouldn't make any difference on a quarter. So, okay, thank you.
And especially because I understand tourism is doing great. So.
That's all the people driving on State Street in front of the shuttle. Yeah, Mr. Chamber.
Just a couple of things. My memory is that the Carrillo commuter lot has traditionally been booked to capacity or overbooked with people leasing those spaces. Has that been the case?
Well, actually, it was the Coda lot was
Coda
the
lot
one
was
that was
overbooked.
over.
Okay.
Right.
So, do you, off the top of your head, know what the percentage of the spaces at the Carrillo lot are booked?
Oh.
Just doing a straight math analysis, looks like we're abandoning about 26 people per day by giving up that line.
We had, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was well under the capacity for that lot. So not having that service, we didn't think was going to affect that many people, and we did find with the Coda lot, most of the people that were parking the Coda lot actually walked and didn't take the crosstown shuttle. So I think it was, what was the number of riders? It was like less than 10 per hour. Per hour. It was only in service for a couple hours. And we're looking at a lot of riders.
If you take the 12,000 and divide it by the number of work days and divide that by 2 morning and day, it comes out to 26.
Yeah, it comes out to, when you look at $10 and change per ride, it seemed like it was a pretty expensive proposition.
The service was carrying approximately, both fiscal year 12 and the previous year, approximately 10 passengers per hour.
All right.
So not a lot.
All right. Second question, our traffic mitigation numbers. Looks like we had a pretty severe drop in June. We have the quarter ending June 30th in the fiscal year annual report. Looked like we had a drop between the previous year and December that dropped us below the magic number of 985 daily trips, and all of a sudden we got to June and it somehow dropped 579 below what we had before, which took us down well below that number, about half of that number, more than half, less than half, I mean. I don't understand that big drop. You think that was an anomaly, or?
That report looks at several different lines. On lines 1 and 2, it looks at the increase, or the change, I should say, in ridership over the corresponding month of the year before we enhanced the service on the line. And then on the Mesa, or line 4, and the Crosstown, it looks at total ridership on those lines, because those were both new lines that were associated with the mitigation. So the numbers that you're talking about refer to the 1 and 2, which again is looking at the change in ridership over the month of the year before we started the enhancements. And that just does vary. It's up and down somewhat. And I haven't discerned, in the several years we've been doing this now, I have not really discerned a clear pattern as to why that is. But as I state in the quarterly report, on the paragraph at the bottom of that page, that negative number doesn't imply that there's that many more people driving through those intersections. It just means that many fewer people rode the bus on an average day those days. So it's not really, even though the numbers that you see do reflect adding the three numbers together, and which in fact is then obviously subtracting those numbers, that's not really, that I would say that that's not really stating that only in the case of June on the, say, total weekday ridership, that's not saying that only 483 new transit trips were created, because you could just as accurately add together just the Mesa and the Crosstown, and you're over 1,000. So that's.
Yeah, it's out of the 12 months of data, 6 of them are plus and 6 of them are negative. That one just seemed to be very low comparatively. So I guess it bears keeping an eye on.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions for MTD? All right. Thank you both. All right. And I don't have any public comment slips for the next item either, so if you are so moved after the staff report to speak, you can fill out the forms over there. So the next item on our agenda is a report on the Cabrillo Boulevard Bridge Beachway relocation project. And we'll give her a moment to get situated. It seems our computer's gone to sleep and now needs to be reawoken. Let's see. Stand by, please. All right, we are back in business. Had a brief. All right.
Perfect, thank you. Nope.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jessica Grant, Project Planner, Public Works Department. Thank you for having me this evening. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about the Cabrillo Beachway relocation. Three things that I want to discuss tonight. I have about a 10-minute presentation. I want to discuss, well, what's that issue with the existing beachway? Second issue, I want to discuss how is this beachway relocation connected to the Cabrillo Bridge Boulevard replacement project. And the third issue I want to cover is what is needed process-wise to make this relocation happen. So this is the existing beachway. As most of you know, the beachway runs along the waterfront. And if you visualize, and for those that have been on the beachway, the experience that that you have, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of there's bicyclists, there's rollerbladers, there's runners, moms and strollers, fast walkers,
Slow walkers.
and then I'm getting to that point. Yes.
I'm sitting right here.
So this portion, and this is the only portion of the beachway that converges adjacent to the Cabrillo Boulevard sidewalk area. So this is what's at issue. So what's happening, and as Chair Blackery mentioned, that there is some slower walkers. Well, what's going on? There's a lot of things going on in this area. So part of it is there's the MTD shuttle drop-off point. There's the land shark. There's the trolley. They're all dropping off in this area. So you have big groups of pedestrians, and you get distracted because right at that experience, you get off the shuttle, land shark, and you're wowed by this, our beautiful Santa Barbara, the waterfront area. And what's happening is then the pedestrians start to walk. They want to experience kind of getting closer to the water. And they come, and basically the movement is then they start to come right onto this beachway. And then, we have a lot of tourists in this area, not really realizing the intent of the beachway is more of the faster moving traffic. And unfortunately, who usually pays the price in these near-miss collisions, sometimes near misses, is sometimes the bicyclist, usually the faster-moving person pays the brunt of the accident, trying to avoid the pedestrian. Also, what's going on, the issue's compounded on the weekends, on Sundays. So we have the Santa Barbara Arts and Crafts Show. And so in this area, on the turf here, and on the turf here, and over here, all the artists set up all their booths. And so we're really encouraging people just to hang out. And we do want people looking at the art. But again, it's that same sort of absent-mindedness of the pedestrian that they are, again, crossing this beachway. And again, so what we're seeing is the issue is this becomes, this portion of the sidewalk's not being used, and people are just immediately coming across. And of course, right here is Stearns Wharf, which is, again, another big attraction. So again, that's how we have the mix of uses and the high conflict area. And this is, incidentally, the highest conflict zone of the beachway. So I just have a couple of pictures. So that's the land shark. This is some pictures of what it looks like on a Sunday with the arts and crafts area. This is just a picture, again, of the beachway, kind of the uses. And this, again, is more the conflict zone area. It's another picture, more mix of slower moving pedestrian with the faster.
This is one, I think one of our planning commissioners had given me this photo. But this is, again, appears to be on the Sunday with the arts and crafts in the background there. But again, people really not paying attention to the faster moving traffic that might be near. So what's the solution? Well, the idea, the concept of how under staff analysis, the recommendation would be to remove the existing beachway and remove the portions of the adjacent path right here, put that as turf, and just slide it over and separate it and put it in this location. So visually, I'm going to go back to, so if I was going towards Stearns Wharf, if you follow the mouse here, instead of doing this route, I would be going just straight across. That's essentially the location. So how can we make this happen? Oh, I did do a foot that we had a little bit of fun with Photoshop. This is just another pedestrian bridge that we also have along the waterfront area over kind of near the zoo of what it might look like in terms of standing on the Cabrillo Boulevard sidewalk and then looking at the beachway. So again, how can we make this happen? Well, it just so happens that the Cabrillo Boulevard Bridge Replacement Project is set for construction next summer. And the project involves removing the existing vehicular bridge. It's structurally deficient, needs to be replaced. And like I said, it's scheduled for spring or summer to begin the replacement. It's a 2-year construction time frame to replace that bridge. And the existing beachway, as part of removing the vehicular bridge, we have to remove it anyway. So we see this as an opportunity to amend the existing project, and the project as how it's been approved. It just has the approval of the beachway in its current configuration. So what we're proposing to do is to amend the approved project and relocate the beachway approximately 59 feet to the south. And that 59 feet, the starting point would be from the railing of the sidewalk, and then 59 feet to the south. So, to make that happen process-wise, there's a lot of permits involved. We're in a we're in the coastal zone. It's original permit jurisdiction, which requires Coastal Commission approval. In this case, it's called, in their terms, it's an immaterial amendment that we would apply for. We would also need a recommendation by our City Planning Commission to the Coastal Commission that they are in support of the project. And we'd also need all the agency amendments as well. So the Regional Water Quality Control Board, Department of Fish and Game, and what else? The Army Corps of Engineers. The only permits, and also Caltrans approval, they're our grant source for the project, so we need their approval and funding approval as well. From an environmental standpoint, the reports that are needed for this addendum process is a hydrological report, which basically says if we're pushing the bridge 59 feet to the south, does it still meet the flood capacity for the Mission Creek channel? We've had that analysis done already. It still meets that requirement. And the other is the Cultural Resource Report Addendum. It's a historical report assessing what the visual, if there would be a visual impact to change the location of the beachway. And I'm hoping that goes to HLC for review and report acceptance in October 10th.
And I don't have planning. Oh, no, I did discuss planning. Historic Landmarks Commission, we've already gone for them for a concept. We need to go for a second concept. We have not physically shown them plans. We wanted to get their early input because what we're essentially doing is the approved beachway, that's part of the Cabrillo Boulevard Bridge project. We want to take that same exact design and just move it 59 feet to the south. But we did get early feedback from HLC that we don't need to stay with the same type of railing. What's approved under the existing project is a concrete railing, and their direction to us was to investigate a lighter type of railing. So we have a consultant working on that for a design, and we hope to return to HLC in a couple of weeks for feedback on that. And we also need to go to the Parks Commission because we're right in the parks, not jurisdiction, what would you, in Parkland, yes, and for feedback. And what we're here before the Transportation Circulation Committee today is just to find that the Beachway Bridge relocation is consistent with the circulation element of the general plan. Yes. So some additional benefits besides solving some of these circulation issues. This is, again, a plan of the approved project. So what is another bonus is under the approved project, they would have had to construct a temporary beachway that would temporarily house some of the utilities, and then again remove the utilities when it's ready, and then once the beachway is in place, and move them again back to there. So this is a big cost and schedule savings if we move the beachway just one-time relocation, do utilities with a one-time relocation, and that basically translates to a $500,000 savings for the project. And in addition to the cost savings, it would be time schedule as well, 1 to 2 months of time frame. But because this is really in one of the major points of our city, just any time that we can save on the construction for that project is a big bonus. All right. And that concludes my presentation. Do you have any questions?
I would say always lead with the time and cost savings.
Yes.
From now on. But yeah, well, we can start with questions. I have a few, but I'll defer to other folks first, unless there are none. Wow. All right. I'll ask.
One question I have is when can we spend that money?
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Coffin-Gray.
I don't really have a question. I was on the committee back when we first looked at this project. What was it, 2008, as it says, something like that? It was a while ago. But, at the time, we thought, oh, gee, that's nice to have that temporary put in. But I think this is a great plan to spend the money, make it permanent, and like you say, the savings of having to remove it as a temporary, and the benefits are so many by doing it this way. So I think it's a great project. I guess the time frame. I know you said it starts on the summer of 2013. Is it a 2-year project?
Yes, the Cabrillo Boulevard Bridge Replacement Project would be a 2-year project.
And so would this, it says temporary here, but the beachway, would that be one of the first things put in before the construction started?
Yes, that would be correct. It would be one of the first items. So we can basically, the biggest item is they need to get the utilities off the existing bridge before they can start to demolish it. So the putting a permanent beachway and having the substructure in place to do the utility relocation.
Sounds like
is
a
where
great
they
plus
would
to get
first,
that done first,
yes,
yeah.
where they would first start. And a permit, what we're looking at, hopefully in this addendum process, is a 3-month process. We are under a very tight timeline. The bridge project itself is set to go out to bid in early 2013. What we might see if we don't hear back from all of the agencies in time is the project is bid as originally approved, and then we would come back with a change order if we did receive the permit approvals and the funding. Those are the two two biggies, and an effort to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. But the sidewalk, the approved new sidewalk, if the beachway were relocated, is that any larger than the current sidewalk? Is it any wider than the current sidewalk, or is it just the same? I mean, I know they have to knock that part of the bridge down, or what does that end up being?
Chair Beckleby, the approved sidewalk right now, it actually narrows on the bridge to what's on the plans is 8.5 feet. I think we feel, as originally approved, that that's too small. The project received a construction value engineering analysis a few months ago, and the design engineer is making some changes. That's one of either with the approved project or with the beachway relocation. We're looking to change that sidewalk width to about 12 feet.
Cool. All right, and I think I had just one more. Sorry.
Of course.
The area which is obviously also a high conflict zone once it actually hits, I guess that's still state, but the edge of Stearns Wharf. Would anything come along with this as far as rerouting, any better signage or anything clearer to make it so that we actually know, that people know what is to ride on the beachway and what is not?
Yeah, under an analysis right now is to look at some signal timing modifications to the intersection at State and Cabrillo. And then another issue that we would still under evaluation is we still need to have the arts and crafts shows really huge. It's on Sundays. We still want it. We don't want to lose that space. It's very important to the livelihood of a lot of our artists and our community. So some of the other conflict points that we were seeing is once you get from the bridge back onto the path, that if the people are having still their artist locations, that you still don't wander onto the relocated beachway. And what we were talking about with actually this today with the Parks Department was kind of doing a post and chain type of fence. We have it at the Chase Palm Park facility in Plaza Veracruz. And to also, we would probably have it for probably along this stretch, again, just to prevent just the casual walker just coming on to the path. And the style of fence is, from a visual standpoint, it's pretty it's kind of reads as a light fence. You can't sit on it. Right. It's visually benign, but enough to provide a barrier.
You would trip over it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
And also, we would, signage at the edge into the beachway when it hits State Street. And I was just thinking, and I got some other ideas. I'll talk to our traffic engineer to see if there's other things we can do. Part of the problem there is also the problem when you get to the entrance of Stearns Wharf with the pedestrians and bicycles not letting the people get off of the wharf.
It's kind of awful right there.
Kind of a problem, too. So that's we have two pinch points right there that we also want to try and address with this project.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. There's people out there doing things, buying things, but yeah. That's another question.
Yeah, two things I was Just wanted to confirm that there's going to be a way for traffic to go on, over the bridge even during construction?
Yes, that will be the case. They're only doing half the bridge at a time. So there'll be one lane of traffic in each direction during construction.
Okay, thanks. And then the other thing is, have you considered, or maybe I'm reading this wrong, have you considered keeping the bridge where the word says remove over it? Have you considered, just taking out those side parts and just keeping that section there, or is that supposed to be kept there? The beachway, the bridge, it's part of the bridge now?
Well, that entire bridge, from where the cursor is all the way over to the other side of the street where the building is, where Rusty Pizza, that's going to be completely removed and replaced with a new bridge structure. It's structurally deficient.
It's going to be that wide, though?
It's going to be not quite, if we do not put the beachway there, it will not be that wide. By approximately, we'll basically reduce the area adjacent to the road by roughly 10 to 12 feet.
The sidewalk would be wider than it currently is, but
Right.
it wouldn't be all the way out to where the...
Correct.
Yeah, I just hate to lose all that extra space.
But we're going to
for
replace
traffic,
what
foot
we-
traffic.
There should be adequate area for the foot traffic. We just want to remove the conflict with the bicycle and the foot traffic and move the bicycle traffic south by 50 feet, 59 feet. So there'll still be adequate area for the pedestrians to get through the area. Obviously, if we have a tour bus or a bus unloading there, we got a bunch of people and they're just standing there, that's going to be a bottleneck, and then we're going to have to address that. But if we don't have the bicycles in the same area, at least we would remove that conflict.
And safer for pedestrians
Absolutely.
to stand there. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Bradley?
So, will there be a bikeway open at all times, so the new one will be put in before the old one is closed?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And will the new one involve any slope at all, or will it still be pretty flat going across there? Okay, because I know
Yes.
some of those four-wheel
Surreys.
have trouble
Right.
getting up even a tiny
Right.
little hill.
It would have a slightly higher crown than the existing beachway, but that was a concern that people just don't come shooting off of the relocated beachway. And the slopes are in conformance with all the AASHTO and standards for a bikeway design for Class 1.
Okay. Yeah, what Ms. Horn's comment made me think it might be nice to have a little observation or a place for crowds to stand there next to the sidewalk, although that might use up most of the cost savings that you get from
Just to respond to, essentially the 12 feet of sidewalk would be part of the observation, because what's now, if you're standing on the sidewalk, you can't see the water, because the beach, there's the gas line and then the beachway right there. So what the visual change from the sidewalk is, once you're out there, you can look down immediately and have that experience with the water.
Yeah, I'm thinking mostly just the space for people to get off the bus and stand somewhere.
All right. So, Tabor.
In the photograph to the right, that line crossing the creek, is that a dredge line? And it looks like the plan, that dredge line is not going to be part of the new beachway. That's one of the utilities that's going to be combined with the beachway, so that would no longer be there.
That's something that we're exploring.
Okay.
So yes, under that, under the exploration that we're looking at, in the substructure of the bridge, there would be enough room for a 22-inch permanent dredge pipe. If as it exits the bridge, it would be buried underground in the grass, and then come out to approximately right about here. And then same thing would be buried in the sand.
and then as a future dredging contractor that they come every 3 years could connect to. So this provides an opportunity to get rid of I know it's a subjective comment, but some people would call the dredge line an eyesore, and it provides an opportunity to relocate it and keep it hidden. And we're, as Browning Allen mentioned, we're still under investigation for that.
I have to apologize for making a non-transportation related comment at this committee, but there would be a nice Benny to have there. Everything else seems to add up nicely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you for being creative and looking at ways to fix that area a little bit and save money and time. Yes. We just keep looking for projects like that around the city. So then a motion would be in order to find the Beachway Bridge relocation consistent with the circulation element of our general plan. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move to find the Beachway relocation consistent with the circulation element of the general plan.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Second from Mr. Bradley. Any more discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right. There you go. And good luck at all those other steps that you have to do in the next 3 months. All right. And we are just ending with a few announcements from Mr. Allen.
Yes, I want to just kind of give the committee just a quick update. This is not a discussion item, just let you know where we are on a few things. First one, Milpas pedestrian improvements. This was before this committee in a joint meeting with the Neighborhood Advisory Council last spring. Engineering has completed the design. The council has awarded the contract, and the work should be underway in the next few weeks. And the goal is to have it done by Thanksgiving holiday. So we're pleased with that project is moving forward. Want to get the Ped Refuge Island constructed so the slurry contractor who's currently in the contract can slurry the street so we can get it restriped. So really pleased and happy that that project's moving forward. Next item, I don't know if any of the members of the committee saw the city council meeting last Tuesday evening, not yesterday, or this week, but the week prior. We had a conversation with the city council on establishing priorities for the transportation planning section of the transportation division. And what the council has given us a direction is to move forward with doing a neighborhood planning study on the east side, a neighborhood transportation management plan or enhancement plan. And we will be working with the traffic engineering staff as well as our staff and the neighborhood in developing short-term and long-term solutions to address pedestrian and vehicle safety within their neighborhood. We're currently in the process of putting together a plan of how we're going to move forward with that, which includes the outreach and engaging the community. And once we have that plan put together, we'll be back before this committee to kind of share that with you, because you will have a role in that process as we move forward. And some of the public meetings will be before this committee as we develop improvement plans that we'll be bringing to the city council. And the final thing, I want to just let the committee know that starting on Monday, the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments will be releasing the next call for projects for the local South Coast Measure A pedestrian, bicycle, and Safe Route to School program. So over the next 3 years, there will be approximately $1 million in pedestrian bicycle and another $1 million in Safe Route to School. So we will be applying for grants in those areas as well, based on what we have in our capital improvement program. So the things that we'll be applying for are projects that this committee has prioritized in past years. So just want to let you know that we'll be applying for those grants as well. And we will be having a meeting. I guess maybe I'll talk to the chair about whether or not we want to have a meeting in October, then 2 weeks later have another meeting, because we want to bring back the next 6-year CIP for prioritization, or do it all in November. It's kind of like, does this committee want to meet twice in 2 weeks or just once? So kind of give that some thought, and then we'll let you maybe like.
Okay, great. All right. So we are within an hour adjourning. A motion to adjourn would be in order. All right. Second. All right. Meeting is adjourned.